Everyone talks about the light at the end of the tunnel, but almost no one reveals what really happens after it. Could it be the end, or just the beginning of something infinitely greater? And what if death isn't a finish line, but a secret doorway to the expansion of consciousness? Today I'm going to share moving accounts and spiritual revelations that can completely transform your fear of death into understanding and inner peace. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover can change your destiny and the way you view your own existence. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to learn what lies beyond life, beyond death, and beyond everything you've been taught about who you are. Here you'll remember why you're here and what awaits you on the other side. Perhaps you've already felt it. A longing without a name. A peace that visits your dreams, as if someone is calling you back to a place you don't remember, but feel as home. Or maybe you fear death, not for death itself, but for the unknown that comes afterward. I know, and what I'm about to show you could change everything, because there is something beyond the light, something your soul already knows, something you have seen, but forgotten. Today, we will remember together, and when that happens, fear vanishes. In its place, a new way of living is born, one of greater presence, more courage, and a peace no one can take from you. For decades, near-death experience (NDE) researchers have been documenting accounts from people who crossed life's boundary and returned transformed. Dr. Raymond Moody, a pioneer in this field, interviewed thousands who were clinically dead and came back describing the same phenomenon. A dark tunnel followed by an intense, welcoming, vibrant light. That light isn't just bright. It seems conscious, loving, infinite. And most strikingly, after passing through it, many report an expansion of consciousness beyond words. They say they understood everything: the origin of life, universal love, the purpose of existence. This isn't delirium, it's revelation, a remembrance of what we are behind the body. But what lies beyond the light? Seth, the consciousness channeled by Jane Roberts, reveals that the light is only the threshold. After crossing it, the soul returns to its natural state, pure multidimensional consciousness free from time, the body, and physical limits. According to Seth, the light is the initial invitation to return, but the true home lies beyond it. A realm where the I dissolves into the we, where separation vanishes and everything is experienced simultaneously. This is the between lives plane, where contracts are reviewed, lessons integrated, and the soul reconnects with its cosmic origin. Hundreds of regressions by therapists like Michael Newton reinforce this description. Patients describe that same realm of peace and wisdom after the light. Traditional science hesitates to accept these ideas, but modern physics is opening the door to this dialogue. The non-local mind theory, championed by researchers like Dr. Pim van Lommel, proposes that consciousness isn't confined to the brain. In clinical studies, he documented patients declared clinically dead without brain activity, yet who accurately reported events that happened around them, details they could not have known. This suggests consciousness survives physical death, and that something active, conscious, and observant exists beyond matter, something that not only sees the light but goes on. Greg Braden, renowned scientist and author, complements this view by asserting we live in a universe woven together by a higher intelligence. He says death is merely a shift in frequency, like tuning a radio station. Nothing is lost, only transformed. And upon crossing the light, we tune into dimensions where love is not an emotion, but a state of being, where time doesn't exist and everything is simultaneous. This explains why so many NDE survivors return with heightened intuition, less fear, more compassion, and a deep thirst for meaning. It's as if they've touched the source and brought a fragment of it back in their hearts. So the question isn't, is there something after death anymore, but rather, what will your soul find when it crosses the light? Because testimonies converge, visions overlap, and both spiritual and scientific signs point in the same direction. Consciousness continues. And not only does it continue, it expands unimaginably. What you'll discover in the next sections isn't theory or religion, it's the remembrance of what's always been inside you, because the truth is that you've already been on the other side, and now you're here only remembering. The light at the tunnel's end is much more than a phenomenon reported in NDEs. Spiritually, it represents the transition point between the world of form and the world of essence. It's the frontier where human identity begins to dissolve and the eternal being emerges with total clarity. To many, this light feels like a conscious presence, loving, welcoming, infinitely wise. It neither judges, nor demands, nor pressures. It simply recognizes you. And in that moment you recognize yourself. It's as if all veils fall at once. You remember who you are, where you came from, and why you came. Seth explains that this light isn't out there, but an extension of your own soul. It's the frequency of higher consciousness manifesting in a form the human mind can grasp in that state. Seeing light is feeling truth. Being light is dissolving the ego. That's why so many report a sense of coming home when entering this field. The light is the vibrational return to the soul's original state. But more than a destination, it's an activation, a portal. It awakens the spiritual DNA. It dissolves false identities. It prepares consciousness to cross the threshold of forgetting and re-enter fullness. Many spiritual traditions recognize this light as the unified field, the divine spirit, or even the manifestation of the source itself. Tibetans call it the clear light, a state described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead as the essence of awakened mind. When the soul encounters this light, it can merge with it or move beyond, depending on its level of consciousness. It's like a pause between worlds, a moment outside time where all truth is revealed simultaneously. And paradoxically, even that moment is just the beginning, because the soul's journey continues, far beyond human imagination. The light also symbolizes, in spiritual terms, reintegration with universal love. All soul memories from past lives, eternal connections, deep lessons reactivate upon this encounter. It's like accessing a living library of your own existence. Many report seeing their entire life flash before their eyes like a movie. But the most striking aspect isn't what they see, it's how they feel. They feel everything they did to others, as if experiencing both sides. This isn't punishment, it's understanding. The light makes you remember that you and the other have always been one, and that's where true healing begins. Understanding this profound meaning also transforms how we live here. We realize the light isn't reserved for death's hour alone. It can be accessed now, in deep meditation, moments of unconditional love, or simple presence in the now. The closer we draw to it in life, the less we fear death, because we see we're not heading into darkness, but returning to the light that has always been ours. The light at the tunnel's end is, in fact, the light within us. And remembering that is the true beginning of awakening. Thousands worldwide have experienced NDEs and described so many strikingly similar scenes that it's impossible to ignore. Anita Moorjani, author of Dying to Be Me, fell into a coma after years battling cancer. When her consciousness detached from her body, she says she crossed a veil into an absolute peace she never wanted to leave. There she was enveloped by indescribable love, no pain, guilt, or judgment, only total understanding. Passing through the light, she saw her life with crystal clarity, grasped the emotional roots of her illness, and was given the choice to stay or return. She chose to return, and the cancer vanished within days, because something much greater had been integrated. Another remarkable story is that of Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon who scoffed at spiritual experiences until his own NDE. Stricken with severe meningitis and in a deep coma, he describes being transported to a realm of pure light, guided by beings of light through music and telepathy. He saw celestial fields, felt the presence of an indescribably loving intelligence, and realized consciousness isn't generated by the brain, it is eternal. Upon returning, his scientific outlook was forever changed. Today, he devotes his life to bridging science and spirituality, showing that what lies beyond the light isn't fantasy, it's a higher vibrational reality. Actress Sharon Stone also had an NDE after a brain aneurysm. She described floating outside her body, seeing deceased loved ones, and passing through a field of light pulsating with wisdom and love. She said that in that state, she deeply understood life's purpose, to love and grow. Returning, she was profoundly different. Stories like these are countless, from all over the globe, from everyday people to highly rational professionals. What they share is an unshakable certainty that what they found beyond the light was more real than anything they'd ever known here. What's most astonishing is that these experiences radically change lives. Many who've crossed the light and returned report instant transformations. They no longer fear death, develop intuitive gifts, and live with more compassion and purpose. Some stop hoarding material things and start cherishing connections, silence, nature. Others embark on new life missions, guided by deep intuitions and a sense that they still have important work to do. The experience beyond the light reconnects them to something essential they had forgotten, their true nature. These stories aren't just moving, they're reminders. Reminders that the light lies beyond fear, the body, the ego, and that by crossing it, the soul awakens to who it truly is. These people return changed because they remember, and today, by hearing these stories, something in you also begins to remember, because perhaps you don't need to die to access this truth. You may only need to listen, feel, and allow your soul to recognize what it already knows. And now, let's explore what really happens to consciousness when it crosses this sacred threshold. When the soul passes through the light, it doesn't find an end. It finds expansion. In that state, consciousness frees itself from the limits of linear mind, physical body, and time. The separate I begins to dissolve, and a new understanding emerges. Everything is connected. The soul simultaneously experiences all dimensions it has ever inhabited. It's like accessing a universal intelligence where everything is understood effortlessly, not through words, but by vibration. Many describe becoming the universe itself, even if only for moments. A pure field of consciousness where love and wisdom are inseparable, and most astonishingly, there is no fear, only clarity, a profound lucidity revealing we were never truly dead, only asleep. Seth explains that consciousness is multidimensional by nature. Here we live only a fraction of it, constrained by the senses and the body's density. But after death, consciousness returns to its expansive state, able to observe other lives, access parallel planes, even interact with other evolving souls. He says each soul holds multiple points of attention across different realities. And after the light, we begin reintegrating to that network of simultaneous experiences. It's as if every version of you, from past, future, and parallel lives, becomes visible at once. That's why so many NDE reports include feeling like they saw everything, understood everything, or were everything. The expansion of consciousness is, in truth, a return to your true form. Neuroscience still lacks tools to measure states beyond the light, but it acknowledges unusual brain activity near death. Recent studies show that even when the heart stops, brain waves linked to elevated consciousness, such as gamma waves, remain active for a few seconds. This suggests the mind may enter expanded states precisely during the life-death transition. Gregg Braden proposes this moment opens a vibrational window where the veil between worlds thins. The expansion of consciousness at this threshold isn't fantasy. It's a frequency shift, revealing the quantum field to the soul as its true home. Moreover, many spiritual traditions recognize this process as the merging with the higher self. It's in that moment that the soul stops seeing itself as me and perceives itself as unified consciousness. The ego dissolves, not destroyed, but transcended. And in that merger, everything once perceived as separate, the other, the universe, the source, is now part of the self. The soul realizes it isn't a visitor in the cosmos. It is the cosmos. It is the creative spark experiencing itself in infinite forms. And that realization isn't mental. It's vibrational, silent, and definitive. Whoever touches that state never returns the same. This expansion also reveals that earthly life is only a fragment of a much grander journey. Every birth, every death, every encounter, every loss are movements within the soul's ocean of experiences. The soul that crosses the light views it all with love. Even life's toughest moments become sacred lessons, and remembering that makes the fear of death vanish, because you know there is no end, only transitions. Consciousness expands because it finally stops resisting, and when it stops resisting, it returns to what it always was, eternal. Dissolving the fear of death doesn't start with theories, but with awareness. Fear persists because we were taught death is the end, when in truth it's merely a change of form. The first key to dissolving that fear is recognizing you are not the body. You inhabit the body, but you are living, eternal consciousness, vibrating far beyond matter. Repeating this as a mantra isn't enough. You must feel it. That's why deep silence, meditation, and contemplation are essential. They tune your perception beyond the senses. The soul begins to manifest subtly, and you begin to remember something far beyond this world. The second step is to connect with authentic accounts from those who've been on the other side. When we hear real stories, like Anita Moorjani's, Eben Alexander's, and countless others, something inside us opens. It's not just inspiration, it's memory being activated. You feel, I've been there. These stories act as vibrational mirrors, awakening forgotten memories in your field. Reading books, watching documentaries, listening with an open heart helps dissolve fear's barriers and replace doubt with recognition. Death stops being an invisible monster and becomes a sacred portal. The third step is understanding that dying peacefully requires living truthfully. Much of death's fear comes from regret, from feeling you haven't lived fully, haven't said I love you, have stifled your soul to please others. Living authentically is the best preparation for dying serenely. That means aligning actions with what truly matters, shedding masks, honoring your intuition, choosing love over fear. The more you live connected to your essence, the less you fear the transition. Because you feel you've fulfilled your mission, and that in the end there will be no unfinished business, only gratitude. The fourth step is cultivating a living spirituality, not as dogma, but as experience. Connecting to something beyond the ego gives you an anchor. It can be through nature, art, prayer, silence. The path doesn't matter, presence does. Feeling part of the whole is the most powerful antidote to death's fear, because death is just a return to the whole. It's like a drop returning to the ocean, and when you nurture that connection in life, the transition stops feeling like a rupture and becomes continuation, an embrace from the invisible, a reintegration into the field from which you came. Finally, the fifth step, accept death as part of life. Don't run from it. Don't deny it. Don't hide. Face it with respect, humility, and above all, love. Talk about it. Reflect on it. Honor those who have passed. Celebrate life while it pulses. Because when you embrace death as an ally, life becomes more precious. Days gain color, encounters gain depth, and everything starts to make sense. The fear of death doesn't disappear overnight, but it dissolves like mist at dawn, until one day you simply know dying is just waking up. Now you know, the light at the end of the tunnel isn't the end, it's the beginning of a fearless consciousness, the beginning of a soul remembering who it is. And perhaps in this very moment, something in you is already awakening. If this video touched your heart, write in the comments, I no longer fear the light, I come from it. Like, share, and subscribe, because here, every video is a reunion with your truth. Next time we'll go further. You'll discover why your soul chooses to forget who it is, and how that spiritual amnesia is the key to your deepest evolution. The light is waiting for you, and you are closer to it than you imagine.